Viktor Gyökeres is furious at Sporting. At least that's what Fabrizio Romano would like you to believe. In his last 2 tweets about Viktor Gyökeres, he has said that he is 1. Heartbroken and 2. Furious. However, the other side of the coin is that Sporting President Frederico Varandas says that they have not violated any pact or agreement. In fact, saying that there was never a set value in these meetings, just that Viktor Gyökeres can leave under the release clause, which is set at 100 million euros. So, who should you believe? Well, this is what that video is for. I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions, and at the end of the day, you can make your own mind up who you think is right, who you think is wrong, or maybe both are right and both are wrong. Who knows? But this video, we're going to be talking about the Viktor Gyökeres situation, the updates that have been coming. As of recording, it is the 26th of June. Of course, there are still a lot of transfer windows to go, or time in the transfer window to go, should I say. And this has been the biggest story, I would say, of this transfer window so far. Where is Viktor Gyökeres going to go? So in order to talk about the full story, let's go straight to the beginning. Of course, at the end of this season, Viktor Gyökeres wins the double of the Taça de Portugal and the league. But last year, when Ruben Amorim was still here, there was allegedly a meeting. The meeting was between only Frederico Varandas, Viktor Gyökeres' agent, and Hugo Viana. Now, of course, Hugo Viana has now gone to Manchester City, so you could take him out of the equation. So the only 3 people in that room at the time were Hugo Viana, Frederico Varandas, and of course the agent of Viktor Gyökeres. And what Frederico Varandas has said happened is following, and I'm going to quote him from his interview. He says, quote, "One of the agent's biggest concerns was whether we would demand the termination clause. He wanted to guarantee certain things, and what was agreed, that Sporting would not demand a release clause. For one reason, he was going to be 27 years old, and no player leaves Portugal for 27 at 100 million euros or 90 million euros. In that same meeting, the agent wanted to anchor the exit to the value. I said this sentence, it's not worth us setting a value because I don't know what will happen in a year's time. I don't know if he'll be worth 40, 60 or 80. What I can guarantee you is that I would not demand 100 million euros. He also would go on to say, we have not received an official offer for Viktor Gyökeres, neither today or last season. This is where the story gets interested now, because Record would report that Viktor Gyökeres was furious with Frederico Varandas because allegedly they rejected a bid of 60 million euros altogether, in 50 in upfront fees and 10 in bonuses. Varandas says he's never received an offer. Viktor Gyökeres' agent said he did and rejected it, and also said that Viktor Gyökeres could leave for 60 million euros. So, who should you believe? In my opinion, and I've got my biases, I'm more inclined to believe Frederico Varandas. And the reason I'm inclined to that is because it just makes sense. Why would you, at the end of 2024, say, you know what, next year, even if you score 100 goals in 2 years, or if you score 50 goals in a season, we're going to let you go for 60 million. Because what happened if he did even double his numbers? What happens if he tears his ACL and is out for the season and his value diminishes even more? Why would you set a price at 60 million? I believe that Frederico Varandas would say that he can leave below the termination clause, the release clause, and that is that. But of course, I know how murky these things can be, and maybe you might think different. Maybe you think Viktor Gyökeres is right. But here's the thing as well. Viktor Gyökeres hasn't said anything. Everything we've heard has been either through his agent, through Fabrizio Romano, or just through social media and newspapers. The only thing Viktor Gyökeres would say on Instagram is, quote, "There is a lot of talk at the moment. Most of it is false. I will speak when the time is right," end quote. And that coming from his Instagram on the 12th of June. As a recording is the 26th of June, and Viktor Gyökeres had said nothing. He wants it to be a riddle, apparently. I don't know. But I would say the time is right now if you want to come out and say something, because no one really knows what direction Viktor Gyökeres is going to go. We'd assume that he's going to side with his agent, but he could be like, you know what, my agent's wrong. I'm right. I think there's a slim chance of that, but who knows which way he could go. The latest update comes 2 days ago from Fabrizio Romano, who tweets, quote, "Viktor Gyökeres has already personally informed Sporting President Varandas about his decision to leave. He's got no intention to play for the club anymore. Gyökeres wants a new chapter. He feels heartbroken after X's pact and not expected to return to training, as Abola reports," end quote. But here lies one problem. How many suitors are there actually for Viktor Gyökeres? If you look at the start of the window, you could have named hundreds. You could have named Chelsea, you could have named Man United, Arsenal, even the likes of Barcelona, PSG, Juventus, Al Hilal, and the list of course goes on. But let's take a look at some of those clubs. First up, you've got Chelsea, who have just signed Liam Delap. You've then got Arsenal, who are apparently linked to buy Sesko from RB Leipzig. Barcelona, of course, Deco has famously come out and said that they've got Robert Lewandowski, so that one's off the table as well. So, in my opinion, Viktor Gyökeres is a fantastic striker, and I've got my biases and whatever, we know this already. But at the end of the day, it doesn't translate into how many clubs are actually lining up for him, and this is where I feel like the main issue lies. Viktor Gyökeres' agent is awful, and I don't mean that in personality-wise. I just mean in terms of giving your player out and giving him to other clubs or trying to sell him to other clubs. He's doing an awful job. Case in point here is that he prefers an Arsenal move. Why, as a football agent, would you say he prefers to move to Arsenal when you've got other clubs waiting there? What if that move to Arsenal falls through? Now, it seemed like Man United were actually the favourites at one point to get Viktor Gyökeres, and I said that it probably wouldn't be a good move for the player or the team, as much as I do like Viktor Gyökeres. But now, where is he going to go? That is the question on everyone's mind. Viktor Gyökeres, he's not going to go to Manchester United. Arsenal are getting Sesko. Juventus are still in the picture. Maybe it's time for a Saudi move, because if you look at what's happened, his agent has burnt all available bridges. Not with Sporting, which, to be honest, I don't think anyone expected him to stay there. But now, a big move for the player would have been for Manchester United. And of course, probably would have been a big sign-on fee for his agent too. And now it looks like none of that's going to happen. Obviously, the transfer window is still wide open. You've still got to the 1st of September, which is a long time. So anything can happen between now and then. Sesko deal might fall through. Maybe he goes to United after all. But at the end of the day, for me, this situation with Viktor Gyökeres is ridiculous. Just because he had so many suitors lined up. But for whatever reason, Chelsea decided to go with Delap. I guess you can go with Price maybe. And he's younger than Viktor Gyökeres. Of course, Viktor Gyökeres is 27. Delap is younger than that. And then you've got a few other teams. Sesko is probably the same. Probably more price, but a higher ceiling. And someone who can grow over time and potentially flip for a bigger profit than Viktor Gyökeres. I will say this is like a roller coaster. Almost like a merry-go-round of the exact same thing all the time. How Sporting going from Coventry was him doing exactly the same to Coventry, what is now happening to Sporting. So I guess it's just one big circle of life. But it proves that one, agents in football, as we already knew, aren't to be trusted. And two, this sets you up with a bad reputation, and as a player and an agent, that's something you don't want to have. And point number two is, what is Fabrizio Romano's involvement in this? And this is by no means an insult to Fabrizio Romano. He's very good at his job, obviously. He's the most trusted source in all of football, if not all of sports in general. But you have to think that he is clearly in contact with the agent and not with the club. Now, I said that you can either believe Viktor Gyökeres' story or Frederico Varandas' story. But at the end of the day, there's only one side that Fabrizio Romano is aggregating, and it's not even a little bit of the other side. It's just personally about Viktor Gyökeres being heartbroken and Viktor Gyökeres being furious with Sporting. But he's clearly just gone with the agent's side and not with Federico Varandas' side, the president of Sporting. Why is that, do you think? So, if you believe him that Federico Varandas is lying and that Viktor Gyökeres also thinks that he's lying and he's not willing to play for the club anymore, then what really decision do you have right now? Because if Sporting don't want to sell you, then what? Are you just going to sit and tank your value even more? Are you going to try and force a move to Saudi Arabia? Are you going to hope that Manchester United pick you up when you said you didn't want to go there? Or are you hoping Sesko falls through? Or maybe a team like Juventus or another team comes in hoping to buy you? I just don't see what's happening here. I don't see the positives in this situation, because there was an amicable way to leave. And I feel like he's not doing that, either through his agent or for himself. I feel like Viktor Gyökeres is doing a lot more harm to his overall image as a player and as a character than he is doing any good. But that is just me. What is your guys' opinion? Do you think Viktor Gyökeres is telling the truth? Do you think Frederico Varandas is telling the truth? Do you think it's murky on both sides? Or do you just not care? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm Sam Fonseca. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time, man. Peace.